Welcome to Political Perspectives. I'm Hugo Gurdon, Editor-in-Chief of The Washington Examiner. If you're joining us on YouTube, please help us by liking and subscribing to the channel. I'm joined by Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent. And Byron, we're talking in the immediate aftermath of the departure of Elon Musk from the administration. And he has, looking back on seeing his departure now, one realizes that he was probably the highest profile person and the most hated person in the administration apart from President Trump. So talk a little bit about the impact he had in terms of the public perception.
Well, he was the face of what was called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and President Trump gave him unparalleled access to presidential time, to resources, just to everything. And basically, what happened was, I think the way to look at DOGE, certainly from a conservative point of view, is that it is a good thing to try to stop stupid and wasteful government spending, and we should support and applaud the people who try to do it. On the other hand, I think in the end, certainly in monetary terms, you can say that Musk overpromised and underdelivered. He had originally talked about cutting $2 trillion out of the $7 trillion federal budget, and then it was $1 trillion. And now, if you look at the DOGE website, they're talking about $175 billion. Now, even in Washington, that's still a lot of money, but it's nowhere near what he was talking about.
Right. So the White House has just sent a rescission bill of about $10 billion up to Congress to try and have those cuts made. And those cuts are based on stuff that DOGE identified as being waste, fraud, abuse, etc. But that 10 billion is a rounding error compared with the $1 or $2 trillion that Musk originally suggested.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what the implication of that is. Perhaps there are more cuts coming. DOGE, as you say, has on the website suggested 170 billion. But has it exposed a lack of appetite in the Trump administration for major cuts, or a lack of appetite amongst congressional Republicans?
I think both, as a matter of fact. President Trump has never been a big fiscal conservative. He has said in his campaigns that he wanted to balance the federal budget, but he's never, when it comes to actually doing the work of that, it's not something he really seemed inclined to spend political capital on. And certainly Republicans on Capitol Hill are just not that interested in cutting federal spending. And Democrats are not interested in the least bit in cutting federal spending. And there are a number of programs in which there's basically a bipartisan consensus to look the other way as far as spending is concerned. Perhaps one of the biggest, if not the biggest source of fraud in the federal government, the earned income tax credit, is something that both parties have just decided to ignore. And it's a huge amount of fraud. So this is something you see a fair amount. And I do think there was always the danger with DOGE of it becoming another one of these blue ribbon commissions that finds a lot of really wasteful and fraudulent government spending and says, we ought to do something about it, write a report, put it on the shelf, nothing is ever done.
Yeah, Musk, in his departure, hit out at the bill. He called it, amongst other things, disgusting.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing. I think a bill can be big, or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
He's right that it contains egregious spending, such as, for example, the increase to $40,000 on the state and local tax deductions, which is essentially a subsidy by federal taxpayers to overspending Democratic states. But has he made the bill that harder to pass now? And does that mean that he has made it more likely that we're all going to get a $4 trillion tax increase?
Well, that's really the story of the moment. And as we speak, we're kind of in an ongoing drama about this because it's been about 24 hours ago that Musk delivered kind of a bombshell tweet, just trashing the big, beautiful bill and saying that anybody who supported it, who voted for it, meaning everybody except one in the House, all the Republicans except one in the House, they should be ashamed.
Right.
Presumably, you would think that the bill's greatest advocate, that is President Donald Trump, should be ashamed as well, according to Musk's way of thinking. And he's gone on and on about this. He's retweeted Senator Rand Paul, the probably most prominent Republican opponent of the bill in the Senate. He's retweeted Thomas Massey, the member of the House who really does vote against almost everything. He was the one guy who voted against the bill in the House, and Trump has accused him of grandstanding all the time. So, and then Musk is, as we speak, he is still at it, and this is something that obviously is delighting Democrats. And Charles Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, comes out and says, "I've never thought I would say this, but I agree with Elon Musk." Democrats love it because it shows divisions inside Republicans. The Republicans who oppose President Trump, maybe in private, they like it too.
Right.
Everybody likes it except the people who want to see this bill passed.
So the question is, why did Elon Musk choose to do this? And also, do you think that he is likely now to become an enemy of this president, an enemy of this administration?
That's a great question. There's a lot of speculation. The bill does contain things like the phase out of the electric vehicle subsidies that do not help Tesla, and that Tesla, as a corporate entity, had opposed and lobbied against. So there were a number of things. There was another thing about a contract for Starlink, which is Musk's incredibly valuable satellite-based internet access system, and some other things that meant a lot to Musk as a businessman. Now, is he trashing this bill because of that? You're
Mhm.
certainly hearing whispers on Capitol Hill and in the White House that he is doing it out of self-interest. Has he become a dyed-in-the-wool fiscal conservative, and he's just so upset at these possible alleged predicted additions to the national debt? I don't know. Is there some other motive at work here? Nobody seems to know, but he does. There's a couple of things. He owns Twitter, so he has a zillions of followers on Twitter, and he has 400 plus billion dollars, which is enough money to do a lot of damage if he wants to campaign against Republicans and the White House.
It is extraordinary, isn't it, Byron, to see the switch that has taken place with Chuck Schumer, who you mentioned, and other Democrats now saying that they agree with Elon Musk when in the past they had nothing that they thought he said nothing that was worth listening to, and increasing likelihood, it seems, of him becoming a thorn in the side of the administration, or perhaps something worse than that. Byron, thank you very much for joining me here on Political Perspectives, and I want to thank you all for joining us as well. Please come back next week to join me and Byron on our next edition of Political Perspectives.